Hey everyone, Rich Gasaway here. Just a quick reminder about an awesome way to train your members on situational awareness that doesn't involve the expense of bringing me to your town. It's called the Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. This online academy is designed to help first responders improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, and will teach your members everything they need to know about this topic for a crazy affordable price, only $97 per member. But it gets better than that. The pricing goes down as the number of members you enroll goes up. For example, if you enroll 31 or more members, the investment's just $49 a member. That's like half price of a decent pair of gloves. Since the Academy opened for enrollment in January, more than 800 students have enrolled, and for good reason. Did you know that issues related to situational awareness are consistently identified as contributing factors in near misses and casualty events? Please, don't wait until your agency's had a critical injury or fatality. Don't wait. I work with many departments that have experienced critical injuries and fatality events, and they are some of the most hurting organizations you can imagine. I don't want that to happen to you. I can help you and your members take your understanding of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making to the level that it needs to be. Just think about what training you've ever had on actually the processes of developing situational awareness and the processes for making high-risk decisions. It's pretty much a void in the fire service. Visit samatters.com, click on the green button on the right side of the homepage labeled Online Academy. There are 2 enrollment levels, and those in the premium enrollment get to participate in monthly webinars where I have thought leaders on talking about important safety topics. Past guests have included Dave Dotson, Dennis Rubin, Chris Naum, Doug Klein, Joe Pernesti, Ron Canterman, John Murphy, Dan Sheridan, and more. Again, these webinars are for the premium enrolled students, and they get a playback if they're not able to attend the live discussion. All right, that's enough of the pre-show stuff. Roll that podcast intro. Today's episode is sponsored by Midwest Fire. For more than 20 years, Midwest Fire has been manufacturing high-quality tankers, tanker pumpers, and fire rescue vehicles in the United States and Canada. Keeping firefighters safe while enhancing their capabilities is what they do best. To learn more, go to MidwestFire.com.
This is Firefighter James Johnson from Vancouver Fire and Rescue Services, and you are listening to the SA Matters radio show with Dr. Rich Gasaway. The SA Matters mission is simple. They want to help us see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes.
Hello and welcome to episode 185 of the Situational Awareness Matters radio show. I'm your host, Rich Gasaway. The purpose of the show is to improve situational awareness and decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-risk, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple: to help you see the bad things coming in time to avoid bad outcomes. Did you know that I've been sharing this message of situational awareness and high-risk decision-making at live program events for 12 years now and have trained just over 59,000 students, including first responders, industrial workers, military personnel, business leaders, medical professionals, utility workers, aviation workers, and more. Really, this message is for anyone who works in an environment that is high risk and high consequence. If you or someone you know could benefit on training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, ask them to reach out to me by visiting the samatters.com website and clicking on the Contact Us tab on the top of the home page. If you're new to this podcast, you got some homework to do by going back and listening to past episodes. I've released a new episode every Tuesday, never missed, for more than 3 years. No other podcast focused on improving worker safety even comes close to that track record. And I do it for you, the listeners. You truly inspire me. And let me say this, I'm here for the long run, and for so long as I'm able, I'm going to continue to share this message, a message of hope, a message of inspiration, and a message of encouragement for everyone who works in high-risk environments. I want to make sure you know how to develop and maintain strong situational awareness, and you know how to make quality high-risk decisions. I'm dedicated to improving your safety and your survival, and to helping you accomplish the very most important goal of all, to go home to the ones who love you. And speaking of sharing the message, I'm coming to you today from Billings, Montana, where I'm in town to deliver a situational awareness program for employees of the Phillips 66 refinery. Yeah, situational awareness is important for industrial workers, too. Anyhow, back in August, I delivered a program in Evansville, Indiana, and Fire Chief Mike Conley did such an amazing job of getting sponsors for the event. I want to tell you a little bit about it. I want to brag on him. It was a 2-day training event, and it cost his department nothing, because he paid for it all with sponsorships. I tell departments all the time, if you want to host great training, mine or someone else's, get some sponsors. This is usually met with skepticism, but not in Chief Conley's case. He just said to me, show me how. And I showed him how. And then he went out and he got sponsors. Sponsors like Vectren, the gas and electric company serving Evansville. Deaconess Hospital, great sponsors. University of Southern Indiana. Evansville Firefighters Credit Union, Old National Bank, Global Emergency Products, Hoosier Fire Equipment, Mission Barbecue, Public Safety Medical, Siegel's Uniforms. When the dust settled on all this, Chief Conley was able to raise, by sponsorships, $15,000. That paid for the program, a situational awareness book for everyone, paid for the venue, paid for lunches for both days, and because all of that added up didn't total $15,000, he's now got seed money for another program. I tell departments with limited budgets all the time, this is the way to go. And it is. If you want to host a program that when you have limited resources, contact me. And I hope you do what Evansville did. Host a program using sponsorships. I always say where the will is strong, a way can be found. And folks, this training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, it's a game changer. Attendees tell me this all the time on break, at lunch, at the end of the day. They send me emails. They post on my social media. Understanding how to develop and maintain situational awareness can truly, and I mean truly, save your life. There's no simpler way to say it. One of the questions that get asked all the time by readers and listeners are, when are you coming to my area, or where are you going to be next? Great questions, and I've made the answers really easy to find out. I've created a link right on the homepage of the website with all the upcoming events. If you go to samatters.com, look on the right side, scroll down, scroll a little more, right there, that blue box, that one that says upcoming event schedule. Click on it. Voila, there's all my upcoming events. Here's something else you might want to know. I host what are called companion programs. These are programs on adjoining days. So if you see I'm going to be doing a program in within a couple hours of where you are, contact me and tell me you want to be a companion. You can save as much as 20% off your program cost by being a companion. I've done over 100 of these, and no one's ever complained about saving money being a companion or the great training that they get. That's a win-win right there. In today's feature segment, it's part 3 of a 3-part interview that I had with members of the St. Charles Fire Department about a significant near-miss event they had on January 3rd, 2014 at a single-family residential dwelling fire on Nancy Drive. Captain Chip Ashford and Battalion Chief Dan Casey share the events as they unfolded. The thermal assault endured by the firefighters there resulted in injuries that included 2nd and 3rd degree burns and a shoulder injury from a bailout of a window, and that firefighter is still off work, and it's been 3 years. When I'm done with the feature segment, stick around and I'll tell you where you can attend an upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stop event. Who knows, maybe I'm going to be right in your state or right in your county soon. Okay, we picked the story up where 2 firefighters are in a room and are having difficulty figuring out how to get their bearings and get out of there. There's a lot of heat. There's a lot of fire in this room. They're getting burned. One of the firefighters says he's just going to sit down, take his mask off, and die quickly. And he has a change of heart, and we picked the story up right where he's had his change of heart.
And he said, I started to think about Kirby. He said, I kind of got Kirby into this mess, and I started thinking about his 2 young kids. And he said, I got up and gave it one more shot. And he said, when I did, I actually found the window. And he said at that point, he still had his axe with him. So he took his axe and threw it through the window. And then he dove out head first. Kirby was actually kind of on the other side of the dining room. And he said he was crawling around. He said, I heard the window break. And of course, he says that was the best feeling or best sound I've ever heard in my life. And he said he actually kind of stood up and just ran straight for where he heard the window break. And you'll see him on the video. Tim comes out, and they're so focused on Tim when he comes out. The Kirby actually comes out right behind him and crawls right past everybody. They don't even notice him when he crawls by because they're so focused on Tim when he first comes
out. This where you shared that Tim was thinking, take my mask off and end it quickly. I don't know how many past episodes of my show you've listened to with other interviews, but this is not the first conversation that I've had that has had that vein of discussion in it. And
yeah.
All right.
Well, and we talk about. I mean, Matt, we actually joke about it in class a little bit because you try to, as serious as it is, try to keep it a little bit light, But Matt and I, we've all talked to him a ton of times, and you talk about the mental side and some of the things that have happened. I kind of joke about that. Matt and I, we spent a lot of time on his back deck with a 12-pack of beer trying to figure this thing out. But a lot of that stuff that he tells us, and it's almost to that point with some of the stuff. You look at him and go, "Man, I wish you wouldn't have told me that because it's so hard to hear." But he said he's done a lot of research since then, and he looks back at some of the line of duty deaths and the NIOSH reports, and you find guys in other situations where they find them with no mask on and air still left in their tank. He's like, now I understand why. He's like, it never made sense to me before, but now I understand why it happens. The other thing, and I think it's a pretty powerful moment that we talk about, at least it is for us, and it's home, is that when Matt talks about the air horns, he said, I remember specifically, I got to the top of the steps and I was looking for the hose line, and I heard the air horns going off. And he said, it reminded me of the bagpipes warming up at my funeral. That's what it sounded like. And he said it actually is what turned, he's like, it pissed me off and, is what made me give it one more shot to try to find the hose line. And, it's kind of that not today kind of thing. But it's actually really eerie when you watch the video. If you listen to the air horns, that's exactly what it sounds like, and I would have never thought of it until he said it. But when you hear it, it's actually exactly what it sounds like.
Wow. Oh, wow. All right. So Tim and Kirby out the window. I assume from there the fire gets extinguished and they get transported. So tell me about the injuries of these four.
Yeah, so Matt and Scott, their injuries were pretty similar. They weren't nearly as serious. When they hit the top of the steps, they were taking that, flashover type 1,1200 degree blast to the left side of their body. Like I said, when they hit the top of steps, Matt was, obviously he says it feels like minutes, but it was probably only seconds before he found the hose line. But he opens it up and they make the right hand turn to head out. So they had first and second degree burns on their left side, basically, the left side of their face. Kind of left side of their body. They had all their gear on, they had their hoods on, all that stuff. That wasn't the issue. It was just a significant amount of heat that they took. And most of the injuries was kind of on the left side of their face, just second degree burns. They headed out, and that was it. Like we said, Kirby, unfortunately, he didn't have his hood on. So when he hit the top of the steps and took off into those flashover conditions, he, crawled around for almost 2 minutes with no hood on. So like I said, second and third degree burns all the way up, lost most of his right ear, I think. And then multiple skin grafts since then. He's doing well. He's back to work. Tim, unfortunately, so he had second and third degree burns up both arms. That point, we had globe gear at the time, that point where your inner liner snaps to your outer liner. So he had third degree burns in the shapes of those buttons all the way around his arms. So he breaks the window, he dives out the window, lands on his right shoulder, and blows out his rotator Unfortunately, he has now had, what is it, Dan? 4 surgeries on his shoulder, 2 on his elbow. I'm trying to repair all of it. He's still off of the truck. He made it back on the track for about a month when it got re-torn again, just in the process. We kind of joke, it's that Murphy's Law thing. You make it out of the fire and you land on your right shoulder, and now that's what ends up getting you, and you're not back on the job because of the fall, not because of the fire. But yeah, he's still dealing with that. He's been off for 3 years now, and he's probably gonna have to go off on disability. So he's not gonna.
How far was the fall out that window?
Only about typical residential first floor window, so only about 4 foot or so.
3 feet. About 3 feet probably, and the thing about it is I don't any into 10 inches of snow. So I just think he obviously he didn't know where he was necessarily landing on. He didn't care, obviously, and I don't know if the heat had something to do with it as well, kind of loosening things up for him. But he just hasn't been able to make it back since. And from what his doctor and his surgeon says, he's not going to be able to make it back because he can't, raise his arm up over his head or behind his back to even turn his tank on anymore. So, unfortunately, we're in that situation where we don't think he's going to ever be on the truck again.
How old is he?
45.
He worked for City of St. Louis as well for 10 years. He was on the TENS pumper in the city, which is one of the busier fire companies in the city of St. Louis. Mm-hmm. So he has plenty of experience, and he came to work for us. He'd only been work for us just a little over a year at the time of the fire. So
yeah, and I think that's one thing we hadn't talked about yet. Really is, and I'm sure you've done enough research too, Rich. That typically in these you have a new guy with an older captain. That first 5, last 5, or you have a older firefighter with a newly promoted captain. That's a lot of the scenarios a lot of times. Mm-hmm. This one is, and I think it leads back to why they actually made it out, but it's unique, is that you had 4 guys with a ton of experience. I mean, it was 4, Matt's got 24 years of experience. He worked for the city of Cape Girardeau before he came to us. Scott Detterman's got right at 20 years of experience, all with the city of St. Charles. You had Tim, like Dan said, worked for the city of St. Louis for 10 years on the TENS pumper, which averages around 500 fires a year. And then you've got Kirby, who had 17 years of experience with the city. So all of these guys had a ton of experience, but I think that's what ended up getting them out of the situation is just that back to the basics. Like Dan said, just beating on the wall, trying to find your way out. Those things that we think get to be mundane, where we black our mask out and we crawl around the engine bay for an hour. That's ultimately what ended up saving their life.
So what are some of the lessons? What are some of the things you guys took away from this
Well, communications was a big one for us, and we talk about we had practiced Maydays. We went through a countywide program where everybody was supposed to say the same thing and go through all this stuff, and so we've kind of changed that up a little bit to where we really we rely on our incident commanders. If you get into a Mayday situation, definitely make sure you call the Mayday and make sure it's understood. We've gone and Chip will talk about this a little bit. We've changed our the way we carry our radios. Now it's a mandatory thing that we have our radios underneath our turnout gear. The only thing that's going to be sticking out, we issued straps for all the radios, holsters for all the radios, for all the spots on the trucks. So you will have that with you at all times. You put that on, and then you put your gear on. The only thing that comes out is the mic, and that's the only thing that's vulnerable. So that we don't have that type of situation again. We stress, two-way communication. Because we want that two-way communication, not just for the incident commander so that they understand that the job's being completed, but for everybody else on the fire ground to listen, and they get an opportunity to hear that communication twice. So I know, in fact, at one point in the video, you hear the incident commander call for one of the companies on the inside of the building to repeat their traffic, and then she says, "We're out of the building, we're changing our bottles," or whatever it is. But you hear that communication twice. So everybody on the fire ground knows where that engine company is. they're out of the building, they're changing or they're recycling or whatever. We've done.
So what we've done is we realized how big of a drop we had in that two-way communication, all that stuff. So we've switched to the blue card command system. We've actually gone county-wide with it. We've been obviously Dan and I have taught this class across the whole county, which I think was a huge factor, being able to help with that and make that change. Blue card isn't perfect. We know that, you have to adjust it a little bit to your area and all that stuff. But the biggest thing that we didn't do is we had no consistency in our incident command system. We didn't train our incident command, by no fault of anybody's, but we just didn't practice that incident command system very often. And we basically relied on the fact that our battalion chiefs had 20, 25, 30 years of experience and know, hey, they can run a fire. So what we've done is we've sent everybody. We started with at the chief level. We've now gotten all the way acting captain and above in our department has all been through blue card and has been certified. And we're pushing it across the whole county. Guys are doing a great job. It's made a huge change in our communication, basically because it's consistent. Everybody's doing the same thing now, and we're doing not only our yearly training, our CEUs and all that stuff with blue card, but we actually and we could talk. That's one of the parts of our lessons learned too, is our training plan. But we're now 2 or 3 times a year. That's part of our training plan. We're just running scenarios. We're working on communications. Back in July, that was what we did. Is we talked about communications. We threw a scenario up on the board, and we had guys stand in different parts of the building and put their SCBA mask on and just work on radio communication with their SCBA on air. Hey, and those little things of, hey, we can't hear you. Move your mic. Do something different. We can't understand you. Slow down. And then at the same time, have that first in company officer sit there and run the scenario, and do a blue card scenario on top of it. So we've integrated that into it. One of the big parts is our training plan. We realized out of this is that we had to change what we were doing. So we came up with a 12-month back to the basics training plan. That first year in January, we started with SCBA. And then February we went to RIT, and the next month we did ladders, and the next month we did pulling lines. We just got really back to the basics. And then the next year on January we started doing it again. And then each year we've just added a new piece into it. So hey, we're doing basement fires today. We've done it before, but hey, we're going to add forcible entry along with it. When we did 2-story residential fires, now we added vent intersearch. And just added another piece, keep it fresh, keep things moving. Again, we've gotten buy-in from the entire county. So everybody in the entire county is following along with the training plan. We're now training twice a year. We're doing live fire training twice a year with the entire county. We send each department sends 1 truck, which is something we were never doing before. It's just all those little things we're trying to make us better. And ventilation was a huge part of it. Dan, typically talks about that in his 3 C's of ventilation. Our truck work was a huge problem. So we developed, along with St. Louis County, which is a neighboring, they developed a new first alarm SOG, which we ended up adopting and tweaking a little bit. But a big part of it is truck work and assigning those units, making sure that people understand what their job function really is when they're assigned to truck work. That's kind of my big soapbox and pet peeve about it, is because when you watch the video, we had 9 companies on the scene and not one pike pole or roof hook off of any truck. I don't understand when you're assigned to a truck, how you can show up at a scene and not have tools to, how are we supposed to open up and check for extension and do all those truck work job functions when you're not even bringing the things that you need to the scene? And so that's one thing we really had to change and work on. Complacency obviously was a big part of it. We've really talked about that a lot and tried to work on the things that we're doing. We've talked a lot about the wind conditions and how that affects operations. That was something that I think all of us we just didn't pay that much attention. It never really happened to us. We talked about it a few times, but we really hadn't hit very big on it. And then just situational awareness, never letting your guard down. Mayday, like Dan said, was a big part of it. Really kind of changing how we look at Maydays and what we're doing, and understanding what really happens to you is that you're not going to be able to remember all this stuff that we're telling you. Just if you can get it out, hey, I'm in trouble, and this is where I think I'm at, then we'll figure it out from there. Mm-hmm. And another big part of it is just how to take care of our people. We didn't do a very good job of it, especially right after the fire, but it was one of those things that we had never really talked about. We just weren't ready for that incident, that after incident plan. There was a point, Matt and Scott were at the hospital. And they were getting ready to get discharged from the emergency room, and nobody from the fire department even showed up yet to come pick them up. And he's like, well, how am I going to get back? How are we going to get back? But things were still going on. The fire was still going on. There, a lot of things were busy. We didn't have a plan in place on who to contact and do all those things. The little things like, Matt's wife trying to drive in from home in 10 inches of snow, an hour, they live an hour away, and trying to drive in. And we should have been sending somebody there to pick her up and get her in and get the kids taken care of. And so what we really tried to do is we put together a plan, and our new emergency contact form actually has all that information in there now. Where do you live? Who lives close to you that in an incident like this, we can send somebody directly over to your house, get your kids taken care of, start that process of getting you in. Who do you want coming to your house? God forbid it's a line of duty death. And obviously the chief's coming, but who else do you want? How can we ease that load with your family a little bit and take better care of it? And then a protocol that goes along with all that. Okay, if this happens, follow steps 1, 2, 3, 4. We just want to take all of the thinking out of it for the incident commander, even to the point that way he can just, pass it off to somebody else and let somebody else take it. But what we did is we're loading all that information onto a jump drive. Then every command staff vehicle will have that jump drive in their vehicles. So all they got to do is plug it in the computer and start running with the protocol, and it's all taken care of then and sort of put in place.
Is that stuff just for your department, or did that go countywide too?
That's just for us. We've shared that information and pushed it out to the other departments so that if they want to do it, we've given them the ideas. Some have used it, some haven't. It's sometimes that's a process. How that goes.
Yeah, sometimes it's like typically for us, and the reason I think we really got this going was the fact that it'll never happen to us. That's kind of what the mentality was. It's not going to happen to us. We're too good. We're not going to get ourselves in trouble. And not only for the fact that it did happen to us, but the fact of who it happened to had a lot to do with it. Matt is one of our he's an excellent firefighter, and to get into that type of situation says a lot. And the guys that were involved, Chip talked about it. These guys all had experience, and it might have been what got them out of the building. But to get into that situation, for those people to get into that situation, said something. Well, to me and to obviously some other guys that. You know what? It can happen to anybody at any time, and we got to prepare for it. And how can we prevent it from happening?
Yeah.
Not all line of duty deaths can be prevented, but you know what? We made some mistakes here, and we want to share them with everybody so they don't make the same mistakes, or they'll realize, what? We go to fires and we come back sometimes. We're like talking about it, and you're like, oh my gosh, you did that? Holy cow, this happened? Oh wow, we got lucky there, right? Well, we didn't get lucky this time. And things kind of stacked up on us, and we keep making little mistakes here and there. We might get away with them once in a while, but you know what? Not all the time.
Yeah, it's and too, as you guys know, repetitive little mistakes tend to, or small mistakes tend to repeat themselves, and then get added to other small mistakes. And as you talk about, these dominoes then build up, and then you have an event, and then what you'd see is a whole bunch of your small mistakes that you've been making over a period of time kind of all come to roost on that magical day when things go haywire.
Yeah, one of the chiefs called the perfect storm. Unfortunately, there was a lot of things that happened before the first fire truck ever arrived on the scene that kind of played into the hand of this fire. So
yeah. All right, you guys said Dan, you said, you guys wanted to take the lessons and share them, and you are sharing them. You've created a class called Overhaul the Fireball. So let's just talk about how long the class is, how someone could find you, how somebody who might want to have you guys come in and share in much more depth and detail what happened, what you learned, what you changed, how you changed, what they can learn from what you guys have experienced here. Phenomenal class. Love the name of it too. But how could somebody get connected with you guys?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook page, obviously, and we can give you the information. Anybody can call us or email us at any time. The Facebook page is Overhaul the Fireball. Just send us a message. Dan and I are both on there as administrators, so we'll both get the messages. We can get it out. It's a 4-hour class. We can actually stretch because we you know how it is, Dr. Gasaway, when you get into this, you start talking about it, we can actually stretch it out into an 8-hour, or we have into an 8-hour class when we throw a lunch into it or something. We've been all over. I think it's been really well received. We were pretty busy here around the St. Louis metro area teaching it. I think we pretty well covered just about every department in this area. We were very fortunate. We got to go to the Firehouse Expo. I seen you at Fire Rescue International. We were down there. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing, the biggest compliment that Dan and I think that we've gotten out of it is that guys appreciate the fact that we're open and honest and sharing about it, because it doesn't happen very often. But the unique part about the class, it truly is that we caught this entire fire on video. It just doesn't happen very often, especially getting it from start to finish. And we share that full 35-minute video. And then we also share, and there's about 30 minutes worth of interview videos with the guys. And I really think that's the most powerful part of the class. Dan and I can stand up there and talk all day long, but when you get to hear these guys, what they really went through, what was going through their mind, and you see that look on their face. And Dan talks about class, like Kirby's pretty unique in his video. Like you can just see, he almost puts his head down, and when he's trying to talk about it, you can see that he's even struggling just talking about it, much less what he's actually been through. So we hope that guys, people who have been through it have loved it. We've gotten a ton of great feedback. We've had a blast doing it. We love being able to share and get the information out, because we don't want it, and I think it's been a huge positive outlet too. Matt and some of the guys, when we talk about the mental side of things and the struggle they've had with it, Matt, has told us, he's like, it's really given me a positive outlet to talk about it, because I can call you and say, hey, he'll call all the time, like, hey, how'd class go, and what they say today, and how big of an idiot to think I was, whatever. But he's like, he gets in the chance to talk about it, and he say, hey, I remember this part, would you tell the guys this, would you tell them that for him here, whatever, and it gives him an outlet versus sitting on the couch at home beating himself up about it all the time. And it's really helped him get past it and move on. So, but yeah, check us out on Facebook. We can give you our phone number and email if you want to post it somewhere.
Yeah.
And,
so it truly is refreshing to see how open you guys are to talking about these lessons, about mistakes that were made and what you learned from them and how you've changed things. There's so many that won't do that, and which leaves so many of these really, really valuable lessons never shared with anyone. They it's like they hold them as secrets, and you're saying, hey, look right here, a good fire department, well trained, busy, with experienced firefighters in the firefight, and look what happened, and that's just a really, really powerful set of lessons shared. Now, you guys are going to also send me a video clip that I'm going to put up for the listeners so that they can see I think Dan might have said it might be a 6-minute clip or something of the incident. Now, they're not going to send me the videos of all the interviews. You got to get the class if you want the whole kahuna. That's not what this is. This is the appetizer. The meal is when you take the full class with all the takeaways, and then you go home with a long list of things your department could do differently as a result of the fact that these 4 firefighters almost died so that you could learn something. And that's really powerful. And when you're hearing it from the firsthand perspective like this, for all the listeners and anybody who might think that this would be a class worth having, I'm telling you, when you put that kind of, like the firefighter said, I just want to take my mask off and end it quick. Man, for the listeners out there, your department, your members, they need to hear this kind of stuff, because this is not someone's theory about behavior of humans under stress. These are lived, real examples, and so powerful. Thanks for putting the class together too. That's
Sorry, I just want to say that one of the main reasons we did this, we interviewed those guys about a week after the fire, a week and a half after, so it's still fresh in their minds. And they hadn't really had much of a chance to talk to each other about it either. But what really got us going here was I was standing in the front yard, and I saw two of my guys come out who were very experienced, seasoned firefighters, and they looked like they just rolled out of a campfire, and they were in bad shape. And talking about a Mayday with two other guys inside, I know both of those guys very well. One of them I basically came in the fire service with. We got hired around the same time. And to know in my mind that those two guys were dead. There was no way those guys were making it out of that building. And to stand there in that front yard and know that two of your firefighters aren't going to make it out is a horrible, horrible feeling that I don't want anybody to go through. And to see them come out of that window was even though I know they were injured, was very refreshing. But to stand there in that front yard knowing two of your buddies were dead, in my mind they were dead. There was no way they were coming out of that building. I don't want anybody to go through that or to have to go through that. And
I think even for me, Dan and I've talked about it 100 times. I mean, even for me being at home, when you get that phone call and you're good friends, it's almost, I mean, it's as bad, but it's just as bad being there and you have no idea what's going on. And until it happens to you and your department, your friends and all that stuff, it really doesn't hit home until it happens. And I think that's what Dan and I are so passionate about this, and we can talk for days about it, is because we don't want it to happen to anybody else.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you guys for coming on and sharing the lessons here on the podcast. For the listeners, we're gonna cut this into 2 episodes so that you can take this in two bite-sized segments, and so you guys know that when we do this, there'll be two parts to this, and we'll include the video. Dan's going to send me some pictures. Maybe some of the aftermath of the turnout gear and the radios and stuff will be some pretty powerful pictures too. Yeah. And to the crew that was involved in this, if you guys would, on my behalf, go back and thank them for being so willing to allow their story to be shared, because this story is going to save someone's life. It's going to save someone's life. I know it.
I hope so.
Yeah, we appreciate that. We'll definitely let them know.
All right.
And the video, just for frame of reference, like, I don't know if Dan had told you, it's the 6-minute video when it starts. It's basically when the moment when Dan realizes there's fire blowing out of the back of the building, and then it leads up to the moment of the guys bailing out of the building. So it's essentially that moment of when we realize things are going really bad, and then up to them coming out. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Wow. Those are some powerful lessons. I launched this podcast to give voice to people just like Chip and Dan. People who've witnessed or experienced near misses. To give them a platform to share their stories. Very educational. Very powerful. We need to get more of these lessons shared. That's why I launched this podcast. Just to give you, the person who's had the near miss, the platform to share your story with others. If you've experienced or witnessed a near miss and would like to have a platform to share your lessons learned with others, contact me, samatters.com, the Contact Us tab on the top of the homepage. Think about it for a moment. The lessons learned from your worksite near miss event could save someone else's life, just like what Chip and Dan shared. That's really powerful. What a wonderful gift that would be. If you want to share your experience, reach out to me. If you want to send me feedback, I'd love to hear from you. Just go to the website, click the Contact Us tab, or you can reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. In case you missed me when I was out there on the road somewhere, or you're not following me on social media, let me tell you where we've been. The Situational Awareness Matters tour stops have included Cleveland, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, by the way, this is just this fall, the end of summer and beginning of fall. Cleveland, Ohio, Nashville, Tennessee, Evansville, Indiana, Redmond, Washington, Lexington County, South Carolina, Chesapeake, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, Topeka, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, Davis, California, Dallas, Texas, Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, Perth, Australia, Wellington, New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand, Amsterdam, Netherlands, and Antwerp, Belgium. And where I am now, back in the United States, in Billings, Montana, at the Phillips 66 refinery. By the time this episode airs, I will also been in Madison, Wisconsin, attending the Badger Firemanship Days event. I'm a sponsor of that event, and I'm providing every attendee with a copy of one of my situational awareness books. So if you want some great training, come down to the Badger Firemanship Day event. Okay, so then if you want to join me, November 9 to 12, Clearwater Beach, Florida. November 16th, back in Billings, Montana. November 20th, Boston, Massachusetts. November 30 to December 2, Evansville, Indiana. December 5, San Diego. December 7 and 8, Niagara Falls. December 11, Canfield, Ohio. December 12, Wintersville, Ohio. December 13, 14, Solon, Ohio for evening programs. Then in the daytime, December 14 to 16, Twinsburg, Ohio. And then sometime in early December, my son Cameron and his wife are going to have a baby. And I'm pretty excited about that. Going to be my grandpa for the first time. If you want to see locations of all the upcoming Situational Awareness Matters tour stops, head over to the SA Matters website, click on the blue box labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. Just know the schedule is always changing, so check back often. I'm actively booking programs now for 2018, so if you think your company or your agency or association or your regional conference or state conference or your national event might want to host some training on situational awareness and high-risk decision-making, safety leadership, just contact me, samatters.com. We'll get something set up for you. I got great staff. They'll make the whole process easy for you, I promise. The last time I delivered programs in southwest Minnesota, I stopped by and visited the sponsor of this podcast show, Midwest Fire. Midwest Fire is a fire truck manufacturing company that makes amazing all-poly-bodied fire apparatus, and it's changing the industry. If you haven't checked them out yet, you need to. Just go to MidwestFire.com. That's MidwestFire.com. Anyhow, while I was there, I got a chance to sit down and talk to some of their employees about what separates Midwest Fire from their competitors. Here I got a chance to ask account executive Dalton Lingbeck about the all-poly design of Midwest Fire apparatus. Let's listen in. Okay, Dalton, I see in the advertisements that one of the things that differentiates Midwest Fire from their competitors is this all-poly design. So what does that mean, all poly? Yeah, describe that for me.
Yeah, well, poly is actually pretty common in the industry. Poly tanks are seen inside bodies all over. Manufacturers do them all the time. They've started around the 80s, I believe. But all poly means that our tank and body is all poly integrated. It's one big superstructure. You're not sliding a tank inside of a body. You're not sliding a tank anywhere. It's actually one big built body that we do, and it's made of 3/4 inch copolymer. It's extremely durable, and it's industrial grade, and it's the kind of poly you can beat the crap out of.
Okay, well, I'm a little bit of a skeptic there, because you say that poly is durable, and I own a lot of things that are plastic. In fact, I was just at home last week, and we had this appliance that had plastic parts on it, and I accidentally dropped it on the floor, and it didn't shatter, but it just cracked so easy, and I only dropped it, a couple of feet. So I'm a skeptic. When you say poly is durable, I think of poly or plastic as something that isn't durable, that's going to crack easy or dent easy. So you got to convince me on this one.
Well, yeah, trusted shoes definitely come up with poly. But let me grab down here something really quick. As you can probably see on the screen right now, this is a piece of poly that we use. It is the same type of material, the same thickness. It's 3/4 inch. And what you might notice on here is it has bullet holes. So basically, if you trust a bulletproof vest to take bullet holes, when they first tested it, they wanted to shoot holes through it and see if it worked. And you couldn't shoot holes through it. So what did? We did the same exact thing. We wanted to shoot holes in the theory that poly wasn't durable and poly wasn't reliable. And we tried to shoot holes through it, but you can see right here, the bullets actually could not go through. And there's actually a bullet stuck in the bottom of this one because it wouldn't get all the way through. Now, truth be told, there was one weapon that did go through this piece of poly, and it was a 30-06 high caliber rifle. It did go through, but that's a 30-06 high caliber rifle.
So it was a 45 caliber on the other side?
Yep.
And so what I'm looking at is essentially there's marks on the poly where the bullets hit, but as you show me the backside, it didn't go all the way through.
No, yeah, and the backside doesn't even have any dents on the backside.
Huh.
Actually, when we were doing this test video, one of the bullets, I think it was on the 380, actually bounced off back towards the person that shot the piece of poly. So no, the bullets did not go through. They actually either stuck in there or they bounced off.
Okay.
That's how strong this stuff actually is.
All right, so there you have it, right from the horse's mouth, shooting holes, literally, in the concept that poly is not a durable product on which to build a fire truck. So if you're interested in learning more, check them out at MidwestFire.com. Thank you, Midwest Fire President Sarah Atchison and all your staff for your awesome commitment to improving the safety of first responders. Hey, if you're not a member of the SA Matters community of learners yet, what are you waiting on? There are over 9,000 people connected here on SA Matters, sharing ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to train employees to be critical thinkers and resilient problem solvers. Joining is free. And when you join, you'll get my monthly email newsletter that contains featured content from the blog and the podcast. It is the best way for us to stay in touch with each other. And the easiest way to join is to sign up the same way that participants who attend live events do, by texting SA Matters to 22828. That's the letter S as in Sam, the letter A as in Adam. SA Matters, all one word, to 22828. You'll get a message back about getting access to my program handouts, the same handouts that students get at live events. So in addition to joining, you get the value-added bonus of getting a program handout. That way you can see what is being taught in the classes as well. If you want to get connected with me on Twitter, you can follow @RichGasaway on Twitter. If you want to get connected with me on LinkedIn, you can search for Rich Gasaway on LinkedIn. If you want to watch my videos, you can watch my videos on YouTube on the SA Matters YouTube channel. That's SA Matters TV, all one word, SA Matters TV on YouTube. And on Facebook, you can like the SA Matters page on Facebook. Well, that's it. Episode 185 is complete. Thank you to my guests from St. Charles Fire Department, Captain Chip Ashford and Battalion Chief Dan Casey. Thank you to our awesome podcast sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to all the companies, agencies, and organizations that have hosted live events. And thank you to all who attended the virtual training event that was held on National Situational Awareness Day on September 26th. Thank you to the more than 800 students enrolled in the SA Matters Online Academy. And most importantly, thank you, the listener of this podcast show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gasaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gasaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgasaway.com.